What up, y'all? It's season 11 as the end. You that's who I be, and welcome to another episode of the Money Healing Monologues. Over here at the Money Healing Monologues, I like to open up a space to speak about the development of Black wealth, health, and excellence. So, join me every single Monday where I like to reiterate, reteach, and dissect some shit that I just think us as a Black community should speak about. And of course, the purpose of this is to open up a conversation, so please feel free to comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, if I ruffled some feathers, whatever the case may be, comment down below and let me know. So today, on episode 30 of the Money Healing Monologues, wow, can you believe it? We're on episode 30. 30. Like, that's crazy. That's fucking crazy. And I'm just so proud of myself. I'm proud of us. For tretching through. Is that a word? Tretching? You know what I mean. I'm proud of us. I'm proud of me. I'm just really grateful to be here. At this point, I just feel like, and I know that this platform that I've created is more than me. You know what I'm saying? It's bigger than me. And I'm just grateful to allow my ancestors and my spirit team to channel through me with this platform. So let's get straight into it. Today we will be talking about generational purpose. Now, what I mean by generational purpose, I mean each generation that lives and each generation that is born. So we had the boomers and I forgot what was, and then Gen X, and now we're Gen Z. And then, there's another generation after us. Basically, what I mean by generational purpose is every generation that is born and that is born anew into this world has a purpose. And we're going to get into why I think that in this episode. And as you know, and if you don't, I like to go down who, what, where, when, why, and how format. And the how will always be a question that is down below in the description box if you're listening in on YouTube, and in the question box if you're listening in on Spotify, Anchor, or Apple Podcast. So starting me off with my who, I asked, of course, who does this affect? And I said it affects everybody that is breathing. In my opinion, everybody that is breathing has a purpose. The reason we have breath is because we have a purpose. So regardless of what generation you were born in, whether you're a boomer, whether you're Gen X, whatever the case may be with you, you have a purpose because you are breathing. Bringing me into my what, I asked, what is our purpose? And I felt like this was a really good question because I think that a lot of people would argue that they may not have a purpose, or they're just confused as to what their purpose is on this earth because maybe you're not particularly passionate about one set thing, or your mind or your judgment is just clouded in that realm. I think that our purpose, and of course, all of these are just my opinions. These are just the things that I think. So you're allowed to disagree with me. You're allowed to have your own opinions, which is why I opened up this space. And, I want you guys to comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Right. So I said, what is our purpose? And in my opinion, our purpose is to create heaven on earth. See, a lot of people see God as something outside of them, which is why they see heaven as some kind of realm that is above in the sky or something, and then hell as like something that's like deep, 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 deep underneath in the pits of the earth. I don't believe in any of that. I think that we create our own heaven and hell on earth, and low key, like low key, like low key, I think that we create our own hell by submitting to and remaining in the more heavier vibrations that were shown to us. And I feel like we were shown the heavier vibrations first on purpose in order to keep us in a cycle. If you've been listening to my podcast for a while, or just watching any of the segments on my channel for a while, then you kind of know where I would go with that sentence, but I'm not going to go on a run on right now because I want to stay on topic. So yeah, I think that our purpose is to create heaven on earth because our breath equals love. If we didn't have love within us, we wouldn't have breath within us. And that's just my opinion. I think that we were put on this earth to love and to create that heaven on earth by loving each other endlessly and just expressing love. Bringing me into my where, I ask, where do we experience setbacks? So, where do generations experience setbacks from pursuing this purpose of love? And in my opinion, I said capitalism and all the isms, racism, like sexism, all of the isms. You know what I'm saying? All of these things, patriarchy, all of these things cause illusions that make us hate ourselves, which helps us hate each other. We were put on this earth with these innate feelings to love and express empathy for one another. Not sympathy, but empathy. And I think that we have strayed away from showing empathy towards one another because of, like I said, all of the isms and the patriarchy, simply to feed into the hyper individualistic society that has flourished into what we have become accustomed to today. With all of these illusions that have been created for us, in my opinion, I just think that it causes us to hate ourselves. It causes us to put the power outside of ourselves. And that's my main, I guess, I don't even want to call it an issue. That's my main, I guess, dilemma with religion and the concept of religion in general, is because it teaches people to put God and put just the essence of source outside of ourselves, which takes away our power and makes us automatically feel like we're less than. You feel me? Not saying that nobody can feel worthy within a religion, but I definitely think if you're not a spiritual being, if you're not somebody that practices these things for yourself, then you're trapped in a cycle that you were put in order to keep you complacent. And that cycle allows you to hate yourself and makes you hate yourself. And when you hate yourself, then you're going to hate everybody fucking else. You're literally going to hate everything else that is around you. Moving me into my when, I asked, when is a generation done? So when is a generation done with its purpose? And I think just like for every individual, regardless of what generation you were born into, your purpose is done when you stop breathing. A generation is done when they die off. And as long as we still breathe, we are meant to create this heaven on earth and break the generational curses that have been put onto us. And that moves me smoothly into my why, because my question is, of course, why do we have to focus on this? Why should we heal this? Why should we even do this? And my answer to that is because there is and was a lot of generational curses passed down to us because of the amount of oppression that we have been put under. There's been a lot of undealt with trauma that has been passed down to generation on top of generation on top of generation. And most generations, I feel like before mine especially, did a really good job of brushing it aside, not focusing on it, disregarding it. It's been difficult to manifest this heaven on earth that we all also deserve. And the reason I call it heaven on earth is because, in my opinion, we already live in hell. Ooh, some people's reality already is hell because they're trapped mentally. They're still in shackles mentally. This passed down trauma is something that needs to be dealt with in order to further progression as a nation. That's just how I feel. Y'all let me know what y'all think down below in the comments. But with that being said, let's get into my how, which is a question that will always be in the description box if you're listening in on YouTube, and in the question box if you're listening in on Spotify, Anchor, or Apple Podcasts. My question for today is, how has generational curses affected you? So I'm going to answer the question, but please don't forget to comment down below and let me know your answer to the question as well. So generational curses have, it's fucking ridiculous. And if you don't understand the concept of generational curses, the best way I would describe it is if your mama didn't heal from something or your pops didn't heal from something, then it's passed down to you. And if you don't heal from that, then it's going to be passed down to your kids. And then you can bring it back farther and farther and farther to our grandparents, our great-grandparents, and farther back. If your great granddaddy was stagnant and didn't heal from the oppression that was set onto him, then that was passed down to your, how many greats did I say? Your great-great-grandfather or grandmother. You feel me? How generational curses have affected me. This lifetime was especially difficult for me because of all the shit that my ancestry hasn't, you know what I'm saying, healed from. You know what I'm saying? And that looks different for everybody, of course, because my lineage, you know, lived differently than your lineage lived. But for me specifically, I have dealt with a lot of housing issues. I want to say family-wise also, you know what I mean? Like I grew up in a really broken family. Like we weren't connected at all. And when we were connected when I was younger, it was very toxic and just, the energy was disgusting. You know what I mean? So when we finally did break apart, that isolation, like, yes, it was needed, but it was also still really sad, and I couldn't really understand why, until now, of course, why I was born into something like this, you know what I mean? But growing up and realizing, like, oh, okay, so this is from some shit that, you know what I'm saying, my ancestors didn't heal from. You know what I'm saying? So now that those ancestors have passed on, you know, they're still here in the energetic realm. Like, you know, they still be talking through me like they're talking through me now. But there's a lot of shit that they're learning as I'm learning it as well. So as I'm teaching and reiterating myself, I'm also teaching and reiterating shit for them. So I think that generational curses has actually led me onto a path of, I want to say, a path of righteousness, a path that is more filled with love and just more intentional, I feel like, because having to understand generational curses, in my opinion, you have to be fucking intentional with that shit. Because a lot of the times you may think that, you know, like you might put all the blame on you. You know, that's what I used to do when I was little. I used to think that this was all my fault. And I even, you know, low-key still have that imposter syndrome today of like just blaming myself for things and thinking like, okay, if I didn't do this, then I wouldn't be in this predicament. Which in some cases, yes, that's true. But in a lot of cases, it's just trauma that was passed down and perspectives that are innately instilled in me because of the circumstances that I was put in when I was a child. I hope that makes sense. I hope that made dollars. For real. It takes a really big toll on your emotions when you don't understand and accept that a lot of the shit that you're going through is literally just passed down to you, and your life was set up the way that it was set up so that you can heal these generational curses. And that's how our parents' life was set up too. It's just that they were too much in their ego in order to focus enough to heal these things, which is why it's passed down to us. So now that we have this awareness and we have built up this just knowledge, we are able to be in a position to break these generational curses for the generations on top of generations to come. On that note, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Money Healing Monologues. I really appreciate you for being here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I know I have been gone for, I want to say, the past 2 weeks. That's just because I have been filming. I've been really busy. But honestly, every time I'm away from the podcast, I miss it so very much, and I realize how crucial it is, honestly, to my mental health, because I love doing it. I love being here with you guys. I love breaking these things down. I love being able to allow my ancestors and my spirit team to channel through me like this, because I feel like it's so valuable, and there's just so much valuable things that can come up. You know what I mean? So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. And please don't forget to comment down below with any thoughts, concerns, questions. Remember, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, if I ruffled some feathers, whatever the case may be, let me know your thoughts, because your opinion is valid. And I'm grateful that you are able to have your own train of thoughts and your own way of thinking. I value that so very much, and I hope that through this podcast, I help you value that too. Don't forget to answer the question as well. This week's question down below in the description if you're listening on YouTube, and in the question box if you're listening in on Spotify, Anchor, or Apple Podcast. You know what I'm saying? Let me know what's tea. Feel me? So I'm gonna see you guys next week, alright? Peace.